I'll start- Okay, here we are. This is Here and Now with Steve Struggle and myself, Dr. Ibrahim Weisfeld, here in Montreal, Quebec. And we are concerned by the level of support for Trump, which seems to have gone up somewhat since the month of July, presumably because he's hunting migrants, immigrants, refugees. It's a hunting season, it would seem, for 93% of Republicans who approve of his actions in that respect. I can share the statistics here,
Good, thank you.
and we can do some analysis. Here we are. Okay, so starting with this is Gallup, Gallup poll. Okay, so they say he still has, 40% support. Start off with 47% though, and he was declining until this last month when he went up somewhat. That's job approval rating. Doesn't mean very much at this time. Job approval rating again. Not so great.
I'm
Second
looking
term.
on I'm looking online here, and in August, I'm looking at what Trump did in August, kind of a timeline. Um, they he focused on constructing a ballroom in the White House, and he went on some kind of uh, retreat with Republicans. That's during this month here. Let's see. March. No, this is not good enough. I'm sorry. I thought it was
I heard
more.
that he wanted to pave the front lawn of the White House with asphalt and get rid of the grass.
Oh my
Something
God.
like that.
Yeah, that's something he would do, you know?
Yeah. It's like in the song by Joni Mitchell in Vancouver long ago.
Hmm.
Second term. Do you approve or disapprove of the way Donald Trump?
Oh yeah, and he also threatened to go to Chicago in August.
Oh,
Um, but that he has um he has rescinded that plan. So that also occurred in August. The sending the troops.
so
Yeah,
maybe the
sending the
approval
troops to
rating went up after he
right. To,
rescinded the order.
right. He went to DC. So that occurred in August. And now they've extended which is against the law. And they're not going
Mm.
to go to Chicago.
Hmm.
So that was a major thing in August was the DC
Oh,
invasion.
yes. Uh-huh. So maybe that means that when he went to and occupied Washington, his approval rating went down to 37% in July. And that's what sort of woke him up, and he decided not to lose another 4% in popular support and canceled the assault on Chicago. So as a result, he goes up,
Right. And
which
now
is what he wanted to do. Yeah.
depending on how the Republicans in the government and the media play the assassination of Charlie Kirk, I would predict his ratings would go up in September. We'll
Yeah.
s-
Hmm.
we'll
Yeah.
see.
The right wing
Right,
in Britain, utilized the assassination of Charlie Kirk,
right.
and they pulled out 100,000 at a demonstration there, which the media, was extolling. Media promotes the right wing, like all the media
Always,
promotes.
always,
Incredible,
right,
like
always.
when there was a demonstration of 500,000, against the genocide in Gaza, I don't think that made it into the mainstream media that much.
No, it did.
Uh,
It did.
so in London, I'm speaking about. So this is approval rating for Donald Trump in 2025. So we can see here, yeah, 40% now, and disapproval rate of 56% among independents. No, that's just general disapproval rate.
Mhm.
Yeah. So he's still fighting an uphill battle,
Yeah,
but he's
yeah,
fighting.
and the disapproval rate hasn't. It seemed like it's been in the 50% for quite a while.
Yes, because it only started at
It
48%,
started at
and
48. It started
ended
at
up in
48 and it's gone up to as high as
59.
59.
Yeah,
So, he has not he's kept a pretty consistent level of disapproval. Those who are
yeah.
disapproving of him, very few are turning to the other side, it looks
Yeah.
like to me.
And during his first term, he was
It was high. It was still high.
disapproval rate was at the end, it was quite high, 62%. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll see, that's what's waiting for him.
Right.
Okay, now, um, party of identification. Okay, this is where the independents, show up there. One third of independents are opposed. No, one third are in favor, are supportive of Trump, and two-thirds are opposed to Trump. Amongst the Republicans, it's gone up from 89 to 93%. Hmm. Okay. Job approval ratings.
Yes, that's
First term. Okay, no, that's gone. Okay. Yeah. So that's where it is at now.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yes, I'm looking to
Okay, let's see. This is
Mr. Oh, I was reading somewhere where they were talking about his German heritage, and I mentioned I thought about your extolling that as an important political point. Yeah.
yes, in his own personal psychology. Yeah. That's how
Right.
he signs his name after all. What did you find?
No, I just I was reading something about the the migration issue of Germans, and you had brought that to our attention. That's all. Yeah, it was good.
Yeah, the German wave of migrants came around 1880,
That
and
that's
yeah,
something that's
well,
not
this
talked about too much.
yeah, that's rather sort of late in American history, despite American history being rather short. Um, and that's also the time at which the Jewish refugees from Russia were coming over, during the time of the Tsar when the pogroms were increasing. So about 2 million Jewish refugees came from Russia at that time. I found that out, during my readings, research on the Jewish Bund. So that the
Wow.
Jewish Bund, was losing a lot of its supporters who went to the United States. But then these Bundes, in the United States, they did their work there in the United States and helped to build the American labor movement. So no great loss in terms of the international context. But I saw one put down by a black militant woman, who was saying that her ancestors had been born in the United States at the time, that Bunds, that and Trump's ancestors came to migrate and were not born in the United States. So, the legitimacy of Trump is being put into question by the very criteria that he's using. So,
That's a very good point to raise. Thank you.
yeah. Oh my, like fascists will believe, anything,
Very
or
true, they
choose to
will.
believe anything, like it's really sort of, intellectual sort of bankruptcy on their part. So they inevitably, will make mistakes and get lost and will be dealt with accordingly. But as I saw in the interview with George Abdullah, who just got out of prison after 41 years in France, the revolution is proceeding. And now the United States, in its desperation, has even attacked one of its major allies in the Gulf, Qatar. Qatar now knows the United States is their enemy. They didn't do anything, to defend Qatar, even though the biggest U.S. military base is in Qatar. So, what are they doing
Well,
there?
yeah, I mean that's a very good point because they have U.S. bases there, so
Hmm.
we must assume they have anti-aircraft missile and anti-missile defense systems.
Yeah.
And so, since Israel violated, well, we're assuming that Israel violated its airspace. I don't know that. I'm
Oh
not saying.
no.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
seems that the Israeli airplanes, the F-35s or whatever, didn't even go into their airspace. They
Okay,
just shot their missiles from outside of it.
but
But they
but the
were
missiles weren't.
detected,
But the
by
missiles
the
weren't
U.S. military
intercepted.
base for sure. Yeah.
The missiles were not intercepted.
No, no, they wouldn't waste any of their missiles to intercept, Israeli missiles. No, no, that's verboten. Yeah. So,
Yeah,
and then,
that
oh
is
yeah,
forbidden.
it's a joke, how the Trump administration works. Like supposedly Trump claims that he told Witkoff to inform Qatar that this attack was coming from Israel 10 minutes before it took place.
10 minutes. Whoa, that's a lot of time.
Okay, but Witkoff didn't inform Qatar until 10 minutes after the attack started. And so Trump, is saying, oh, well, it's Witkoff's fault because he forgot. He forgot to inform them. Oh, yeah. My.
It's
Witkoff,
Trump's fault. It's
an
Trump.
agent of Israel, or
Huh? Wickoff,
uh,
huh? Huh? The special
yeah.
envoy, right? The envoy, right?
Yeah, he's supposed to be, the diplomatic envoy, like for the diplomacy, the negotiations that are not taking place now. Negotiations are completely stopped. Qatar is not interested in
But but wait a minute.
sponsoring negotiations any
Why
further.
why didn't Marco Rubio do it?
Oh, uh,
I always ask those questions because he is the foreign policy, he is the foreign minister essentially.
yeah, yeah,
Unless Wickoff works right. Wickoff I want to say, an employee of Donald Trump.
yeah.
Um, but irrespective, not irrespective, here you have the United States again facilitating the murder of Hamas or Palestinian nationalist leaders outside of Palestine.
Hmm, mhm,
So, hmm, it's rather appalling to me.
hmm, hmm. It
It's
also indicates
that
that Trump doesn't even trust his own vice president.
yeah, something's going on,
Yeah,
and um, I don't know. I mean, as I understand it, and my understanding could be wrong, the victims of the attack were the family members of the Hamas negotiators.
one was, yeah.
One,
And there was
okay,
one Qatar security agent, and
okay.
the others we don't know about. Yeah,
And then Israel hit Yemen. I'm not sure what happened there. I don't know. Um,
yes, they've attacked the capital again there.
right.
Yeah,
They had to
because
have
the
food again.
a Zionist military base got hit by one of the Yemeni missiles.
Well, that's part of the tit for tat of war, and Israel has to just accept that it people are just not going to sit back and let them attack their countries.
Yeah. And
Um,
the attack in Tel Aviv, was close to the Mossad headquarters there. So it wasn't an attack on civilians. Yemen is choosing, like military and strategic
yes.
targets all
Oh
the
yeah,
time. It's
yeah.
not
Oh yeah.
arbitrary or,
Oh,
it's not terrorism as
no, no, no,
so-called.
no. Yemen is they've been very good at that. They've been probably a model. They've probably been an exemplar of if one is going to carry out that kind of support, military support for Palestine, here's how you do it.
Yeah. Hmm.
I mean, here's how you think about it.
Well, let's see what Qatar is going to do about the attack on its
They're not going to do anything.
territory. Yeah.
They have U.S. troops on this soil. That shows you who
Yeah.
they are.
How do they get rid of them? That's the question.
Well, they tell them to get the hell out. Just like the people in Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger.
Yeah.
The leadership has to terminate the lease of the land, and the U.S. has to leave. But the leadership,
Yeah, because
unless there is some political situation in Qatar that brings about a demand within the ruling circles of Qatar. The Qatari masses have to demand, workers and people have to demand it over a protracted struggle or an uprising.
Uh-huh.
If you look at these countries, I'm not advocating anything, but it is interesting that there are many militaries there that, I'm not sure how well trained their pilots are or what is their aggressive? Do they even have a military posture toward Israel? They probably don't. In the sense of, I was reading some recently that Mexico's major foreign adversary is the United States. First of all, I didn't even think about that.
Hmm.
But Mexico does not have a military policy toward deterring U.S. aggression. They don't. They don't have them. They don't have missile defense. They have
Oh,
nothing like that. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's really saying something, isn't it? They have no
yeah,
way. They have no way really to repel a U.S. attack.
yeah,
So looking at those countries, Oman, even the Saudis, Jordan, they have U.S. troops on their soil. I
yeah,
mean, their military policy to me, I'm not an expert, but looking at it from afar, they are not even tuned fine. They're kind of like Mexico. It seems like they're like Mexico toward the United States. They have
mm,
no even intent to develop a self-defense capacity against Israel. Now, hopefully, I'm wrong, and hopefully that will change. But they have not even done what Iran did. See, Iran had the capacity to counter to
yeah,
attack, and
yeah,
none of the other countries have any of them counterattack. No,
yeah,
Hezbollah counterattacked when Israel attacked Lebanon. Okay, but that was not the Lebanese government. So these
yeah,
governments don't seem to even have a military strategy of self-defense against Israel, which is really telling. That's really
yeah,
telling if you think about it.
yeah.
Yeah.
And Iran has even offered its supersonic missiles as a retaliatory measure, as a deterrent to Qatar. They've offered their missiles to Qatar, just like they've offered them to Yemen. And Qatar hasn't answered them yet, but there's a whole
Well,
coordination, by the
I
Gulf
mean,
Council, as to what to do as a collective,
you would think,
response to this.
what about the union movements and the student movements in these countries? Are they totally bought off? Because at a certain point, even look at Lebanon demanding that Hezbollah disarm. I
Yeah,
mean, who fought back against Israelis? Hezbollah. You tell them disarm? What kind of country? What kind of move? What kind of demand is that? That's the
yeah.
demand.
Well, they can't
That's the demand.
disarm because then there'll be massacre of Palestinian refugees
Right,
and all the opposition. It's a fascist move. Like
right,
they,
right.
yeah,
So I'm just wondering, is this being debated in those capitals or among intellectuals or worker circles? Because if you have no defense against Israel, what are you doing?
yeah,
They are your enemy. They've shown they will cross your borders and just kill you. At least Iran has a deterrent capacity.
yes,
I mean, they've shown they can defend themselves. Yes, they
yeah.
can. Very well, quite
Egypt,
frankly.
Egypt is preparing. Egypt
Well,
is susceptible, to the regime is susceptible to being overthrown, by the student movement there,
but
although they haven't mobilized yet.
but
But
haven't
Egypt
they?
itself, is preparing itself, setting up all sorts of military defensive measures in Sinai, which is supposed to be demilitarized zone according to the peace treaty with Israel. So they're canceling the peace treaty with Israel, in effect, and setting up their military defense posture there
Well,
and bringing in all the tanks. And
has Israel attacked Egypt?
Israel cannot attack Egypt and get away with it.
Yeah,
No,
that's the point I'm saying is that maybe why they haven't attacked Egypt
yeah.
because
Also, they're hoping for an alliance with Egypt
right,
against Gaza,
that's what I
because they
thought.
have a
That's what
a
I thought.
contract, for to exploit the natural gas resources off the shore of Gaza.
Okay. So
So
so economic for as far as political economy, it's not in their interest right now, at least short term, to have a hostile relationship with Egypt.
yeah,
Okay. Yeah. Well,
yeah,
these are the things that we get people aren't talking about. Well, I think they're not. We just, it's like in Mexico, they have no defense of the United States. To me, that's rather to me, but I'm not a Mexican. I'm not living in Mexico. I live in the U.S. imperialism. But I would want defense against any foreign aggressor. You have to have that capacity. Yes, you do. That's part
yeah.
of your defense of like your of your country. And the fact that they don't, hmm, that's not good. That means
And
that
what do you think about the effects in the United States that are going to happen as a result of the assassination of this Charlie
well,
Kirk?
what seems to be happening is two things. Trump wants to pin the assassination on left wing, on socialists, radicals, anarchists, communists. That's what Trump wants to do. So
Yeah,
far, there's no evidence to support that. So that's one thing that is happening. The second thing that's happening is, like in most assassinations in the United States, when okay, let me roll that back. This was a school. Now, this may sound absurd to you. This was a school shooting.
yeah,
This occurred on a school campus. Why is it getting all the attention? Because if a American politician had not been killed, excuse my language, nobody would really give a fuck. They wouldn't care.
yeah,
Students are killed on campuses frequently in the United States. Teachers are murdered in their classrooms.
right.
No one even knows their names. I don't even know if the flags are held in half staff anymore. So this was a school shooting where a politician was killed. That's
Yeah,
why. So that's why it's and the politician was an ally of Trump, a real right wing, pro nationalist, racist, anti immigrant politician.
yeah. Well, he wasn't
So
even a politician, not elected to
well,
nothing.
I mean, yeah, a non-elected politician. Well, he was not elected, but he is a politician. He was a politician. That's all he did. He didn't have a
Political
job
activist, a
anywhere.
political organizer. Yeah,
Right. Yeah. Okay. But yeah. Well, politicians are political organizers. That's what they do.
yeah.
So he was a politician, and they want to make a martyr out of him. Trump and the MAGA movement. They but they really want to make this turn this into a campaign against any radical forces to the left of the Democrats. So far, it has not happened. There were some threats made against historical black colleges last week, telephone threats. Um, they're creating a climate where Kirk can't be criticized, but that's going to fail because a lot of people didn't like Kirk. A lot of people don't know who he really is. He's really a right-wing demagogue. But a lot of people didn't like Kirk. They're not celebrating his murder, but they are saying Kirk doesn't represent me. And there's some pushback against that in the media. The media is censoring itself, so no one in the media can say anything critical about Kirk right now. Or
Mm,
period. That's going on. Trump
mm,
wants to blame the left, which he can't do. Kirk's wife is kind of making her little peeps. Um, so that's where it is now. Within the political establishment, criticism of Kirk is forbidden. You can't do it. But people are still doing it because Kirk was not popular. He was
mm,
popular among the MAGA movement, among the right wing movement, among the anti-immigrant movement, among the anti-black movement. He was popular. But everybody isn't anti-immigrant. Everyone isn't anti-black. Everybody is not did not take the same stances that Kirk took. So
mm,
that's how I see it right now.
mm.
Censorship in the media, attempt to blame the left. Um, the statement by I want to say the governor. of Utah
Hmm.
says something. His reporter says something like, we were hoping he wouldn't be one of us."
Really. Huh. It certainly is, Tyler Robinson is a very curious character. He had no political affiliation. He wasn't involved with any sort of group. He came to the conclusion on his own, a rather intellectual young man, 22 years old, very
Yeah.
good in scientific matters, deductive, who wrote on one of the casings that, the same thing that was written by the assassin on the of the healthcare, the CEO. It was written, "Hey, fascist!" Exclamation mark, catch. In the media, they change it, They change it, hey, and then they put a hyphen there,
Hmm.
like to destroy the meaning, of the phrase because it doesn't make much sense with a hyphen,
Right.
but it's hey, fascist! Exclamation mark, like you're very clear. Hmm. And this guy, like he comes from a Christian family, you don't know, and yet he came to this conclusion on his own, which indicates that the alienation of the younger generations of Americans is much more profound than I had thought it could be.
Well,
Because
that's a good point because the alleged assassins of everybody in the last year and a half who have engaged in political assassinations, it has been under 30, hasn't it? 35. The man accused of shooting the CEO in New York, the man accused of trying to kill Trump initially, the man accused of trying to shoot Charlie Kirk, they've all been under 35,
yeah,
which is saying, yeah, I've been kind of interested in that myself. Yeah, and they're not they're, they're using they're using what they consider the most convenient way of solving the problem, which is an American way, by the way.
yeah,
Assassination is as American as the Declaration of Independence.
yeah. As American as apple pie.
Like that's what H. Rap Brown said.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah, speaking of H. Rap Brown, I came across a photo of him, beautiful photo of him. And I'm reminded that he's still in prison, I wonder if we could, contact him, start a correspondence with him.
I think we could. No, we can do that.
I think we could do that.
That's
Yeah.
not hard. I think that's for relatively, unless there's restrictions on his
No,
correspondence.
usually they don't, like I remember corresponding with another, black militant, in prison a long time ago when the Bulldozer magazine was being put out by Jim Campbell in Toronto, and he was printing the letters, from American political prisoners. So, if he were, we can invite him to send us a letter, and then we can read it on air, to break
Very
through
true.
the silence. Yeah.
Very true. Good point. We can do
Mm.
that.
Continuing the tradition of Jim Campbell there.
Very
Great
good. Very
comic,
good
by the
point.
way.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Gaza, oh boy, they think they can get away with this. They really do. Even though, in Israeli public opinion, 75% of the Jewish Israelis are now opposed to the continuation of the war. It used to be 86% were in favor of the continuation of the war to free the hostages. Didn't work. So now they figured out, that to free the hostages, you have to end the war, not continue the war, like sort of obvious. But now, 75% of the Jewish Israelis have come to that realization. But I hear a lot of, like so-called Palestinian solidarity, spokespeople, harking back, oh, 86% are in favor of this war. Look at the Israelis, they're a bunch of evil bastards, and all this sort of thing. The string of insults, but they don't notice, that they've changed and that they should have been expected to change. And we should have been, promoting that change amongst the Israelis and certainly amongst the Jewish population elsewhere. But there's no such orientation, only
Oh,
by the Jewish opposition movement, which itself, does very limited intervention in the Jewish community itself. They just present themselves as a Jewish movement to the general public to have an influence upon general public opinion, but they have no program for the Jewish nationality within their own context. They're lost still. They don't understand what Bundism is. The Jewish Bund, like was talking to the Jewish people, and telling them, you've got to fight for your rights here where you live, like Dorkheit, it's called here-ness. And
Well,
what you need, like is not, like a state and a military and bombs, like that's not going to do the trick. You got to stop fascism and not become fascists.
so Abraham, based on this poll, this information you receive, what can we do on this program to promote that development of such a political position? As
Well, the Jewish
because we
organizations, they can walk right into the American Jewish Congress and start talking and voting. The American Jewish Congress is an open, like democratic organization for all Jewish people in the United States. How come they're not intervening there? We haven't heard anything of an intervention of that sort. Here in Canada, because we tried to intervene in the Canadian Jewish Congress, they shut down the whole Canadian Jewish Congress and replaced it by this Center for Israel and Jewish Affairs,
oh boy,
which,
what a
had
name
me
that
arrested
is.
and put in prison, for 5 days, who
Yeah.
I'm now suing, by name
Yeah.
for discrimination.
We can do that. But how can we use the show? This show that's something we might want to give some thought to. How can we use this show to promote that agenda? Because
Well,
we do have the ability to reach people with this show, and since this is a good development among the people in Israel towards the government, the fact that you mentioned it is excellent. Whatever
yeah,
else we can do would also be excellent.
yeah, but the Jewish people don't even know that 75% of the Jewish Israelis are opposed to the continuation of the war. They don't know because they haven't been told, by inside the Jewish community. And the general media, they're not interested in telling them either, because it goes sort of against their stereotype of the Zionist terrorist state as a Jewish state, and they refer to it as such still. And even, some of the dissidents, Jewish dissidents, like Shlomo Sand in France, and even um, Weiss, Mondo Weiss, like in these, sort of, popular Jewish opposition, figures, they use that kind of, rhetoric, like which is opposed to Jewishness itself, and they consider it to be Jewish supremacy when it is not, 55% of the Jewish people don't even live there, don't have a vote, they had no say, like what kind of government was going to be brought in there. And now even the Jewish Israelis are opposed to that government. So, where do they get off, like calling this, like Jewish supremacy and all that bullshit? No way, So we can tell them and we can promote this and share this video to as many Jewish people as possible. I'm speaking to the listeners here and now,
Okay.
saying that, you've got to, open up their minds, present them, with this information coming from, you know, myself. And I'm a second generation Jewish Holocaust survivor from a refugee family who was from the original Jewish Bund of the Warsaw Ghetto, so, I have a sort of, legitimate voice here
That
that
will
Jewish
be
people cannot ignore. And
right.
I'm lending
Right.
you my voice,
You cannot
use
be
my
ignored.
voice, send it
Right.
out
Right.
and, educate the Jewish communities, when and where you can.
Right. Right. Yeah, that's very true. You cannot be ignored. No.
Yeah.
You have credibility,
Yeah.
immediate credibility.
Yeah.
So let's do what we can to enhance that to make sure this orientation of how to take on this situation is more amplified using this program. That's
Yeah.
what I think we should do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
I think we've reached about 45 minutes.
Okay, buddy.
We can get into some conclusion, but um, last time we were 1 hour and 31 seconds over. So I cut off, 31 seconds of dead time
Okay.
and got it into TikTok after all. So what conclusion can we come to for this week here? Um,
Trump's popularity is being reduced. He seems to have a stable 40% of Americans, 40+% seem to be supporting him, but between 55 and 60% are not for him, somewhere in there. I
yeah,
think that's accurate. The political situation in the United States, is revolving around the Charlie Kirk assassination right now, with the supporters of Kirk trying to make him a martyr, Trump trying to blame it on people to the left of Democrats, and censorship of any criticism of Kirk within the U.S. media.
Yeah.
U.S. the Arab countries um, clearly have no defense posture against Israeli attack.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes. Besides
And they
Iran,
should.
besides Iran and Yemen.
That's sort of so pitiful, like because Qatar is paying the American military to have the base there because they're supposed to be protecting Qatar. They're paying them, incredible, not even charging rent, It's wow. So, yeah, this Charlie Kirk assassination is going to allow Trump to focus on leftists, any organized leftists. And just like they were attacking all the pro-Palestinian
Right,
dissidents, saying, "Do you,
right,
but with the criteria, do you support Hamas or not?"
right,
So
right,
that was
right,
the big sort
right,
of question, not whether or not you support genocide. No, no, do you support Hamas or not? So now it's going to be, do you support the assassination of Charlie Kirk? Yes or no? And if you, ambivalate, in any way, whatsoever, they're going to say, "Oh, you're guilty of conspiracy, criminal conspiracy," and they'll start charging people and arresting people and confining people from the left. This is going to be used. They're going to use the same police forces that are mobilized against the migrants to be used now against the left.
right.
This is,
Yes,
an acceleration of the fascist drive.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, exactly.
But we cannot be stopped. We continue, and we will continue here now. And we welcome your attention and your help in circulating our material and downloading our material in case it gets, deplatformed. Yeah, our videos can be downloaded as well to preserve them. So, thanking all of our listeners again, and looking forward to our discussion and analysis in the following week. Okay, have a good day, Steve, there.